Reaction from the presidency and the High Court judgment issued a little bit earlier today. Well, for some analysis, we now cross to our Pretoria studio where we're joined by Professor Dirk Kotze. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Would you say that this is a mortal blow for the Public Protector?
Well, this is possibly the last one. She had some serious setbacks in the past already in terms of court judgments. But I think this one is so damning. It is so, the words that's being used by the two judges are so dismissive of her position, the way in which she understands the law, the way in which she does did the interpretation of the law, that there's very little left of her in terms of her reputation, at least in the eyes of the court.
She said a short time ago at a gathering of black accountants that she says that South Africa's judicial system is being abused by politicians, and if this trend is not reined in, other institutions that demand accountability like the Office of the Auditor General will also find themselves under attack. This is probably how she's going to take this judgment, but would it be something that she can sell?
Well, I don't think the general public will be able to accept that. You know, the judiciary, starting with the Constitutional Court and then the High Courts, have a very high reputation in South Africa. And therefore, for her to try to create doubt about the independence and the non-political nature of the judiciary, or the non-party political nature of the judiciary, that I think is going to be very difficult for her to sell. I think why she tries to do that is obviously that it's the only defense that she has now, is to say that there's actually a political campaign against her because she is so much associated in public with former President Zuma and some of his supporters. So I think that is more or less the type or the angle that she's going to approach in order to, but when it comes to an appeal, for example, to the Supreme Court of Appeal, that's not the type of argument that is really convincing courts. In the past, it didn't convince the courts. President Zuma did it himself, and I don't think in future it will convince any court.
She's lost quite a number of cases now on review, and in this instance we've seen that there's a costs order against the Public Protector, and I just wonder, can we get to a point where the public might lose their appetite for constantly having her cases tested in this way, because it is the public that end up paying the bill?
Yes, that is so, but I think in this case, you know, those persons implicated, in this case it was President Ramaphosa, in the past it was, for example, Minister Pravin Gordhan. They want to clear their name, and therefore it is inevitable that they will take it through a process of review. We've heard with the conclusion of the Constitutional Court ultimately that in the case of that involved President Zuma, that remedial action that's suggested, proposed or tabled by the Public Protector is binding until it has been set aside by a court based on review. So that is why the review process has become so popular in a sense, or widespread, because it's the only defense for persons who are implicated in these type of reports.
All right, let's examine the political fallout of this now. So the Democratic Alliance put forward this motion in Parliament, which the Speaker accepted. The ANC, we saw people like Supra Mahumapelo stand up suggesting that the Public Protector will be protected. The ANC, another part of, in fact, the national spokesperson, and we heard saying, no, this is not the position of the ANC. After this judgment, what would you say now would be the political standing of some of these parties, and the EFF as well, of course?
Yes, I think this is going to be a decisive moment for the ANC. I think what is significant about this judgment, which is different from previous judgments, whether it was about the Reserve Bank and ABSA, or even about implicating some of the ministers, is that this affects President Ramaphosa directly. he is not only the national president, but the president of the ANC. He's the number one person in the ANC. So it is almost impossible to think about the situation where some ANC members will say, well, we don't support any action taken against her, or a process in order to test whether she is still fit to be in this position. So I think this is a turning tide within the ANC. And quite soon, they, as the parliamentary caucus, will have to take a decision about this, because the process has already started. The process that was sort of initiated by the DA's motion. The Speaker must very soon appoint the first panel of 3 persons, and all the parties can nominate names for those 3 positions. So in a sense, it is now inevitable that there's going to be an investigation of the Public Protector. And the ANC is in the crossfire, but I think after today, it most possibly has turned in favor of or against the Public Protector and in favor of her dismissal.
All right, and then very briefly, what about the EFF? Because they were supporting the Public Protector. Well,
I think the EFF is in an even more difficult situation, and I think this court judgment is not necessarily going to change their attitude. I think for their own sake, in order not to be seen as changing as they would like, as they go along, because we have to remind ourselves, initially they were so doubtful about the appointment of the Public Protector, then they changed their position to be in support of her, and to change that now again, I think will be becoming just too much pragmatic.
All right. Professor Dirk Kotze, always a pleasure talking to you. Your insights always appreciated. Thanks very much indeed for your time.